Real talk, real people, real conversation. Week to week, this the place to get your inspiration. Go and sit back and unwind, sipping on your coldest glass of wine. This the home of girl bosses and the warriors. Went from tragedy to triumph and it's glorious. Ain't no question if they ask, they got that fire. This the podcast that came to aspire.
Hey guys, it's Jay and we got a special episode for you. I got beautiful ladies here on the table today. I want you guys to introduce yourselves. Go ahead, you first.
Yeah. Hi, my name's Caitlin.
Caitlin's shy.
Yeah,
but we're going to work through that today.
I'll
we're
be
gonna
fine
pull
eventually.
You out of here. and Miss Lady, friend to the show.
I'm back again.
She works here more than me.
I know, right? Why don't I get paid?
Honey, because I don't. Why don't we get paid, America? Or around the world? Because we're international.
Oh,
what I found out is we're international.
Gotcha.
We are. There's someone that watches religiously from China, so sending you love. But yeah, today, trigger warning, we're going to talk about grief, dealing with grief, how we all have had our own stories from grief. So, let's get started.
I'm not going to cry.
I'm going to.
I'm with her.
Like I have my tissue.
Yeah.
I physically in the car. So in the car was like, girl, and I had my sad music to like get. It's the weirdest thing because I'm a masochist, and apparently I want to urge. Well, I was like, okay, if I could feel like I'm gonna cry in the car, maybe I won't. Don't judge me, girl. Like let's.
I needed to have some.
So listen, cheers. We're gonna cheers with your water
yeah,
bottle.
water.
Listen, we're doing it. We're doing it. But on a serious note, let's talk. So who I do not know who you've lost, and if you feel willing to, please start sharing. Share your story a little bit with that.
Probably the biggest loss of my life last year. I lost. He was one of my best friends. I dated him for a long time, but we broke up and we were friends afterwards. But he suddenly passed away without being able to say goodbye, and it was kind of. I'm still in recovery, but it's been a time.
You gave me goosebumps when you said it's still in recovery, because people think, like, just get over it. Like, they died a year ago, or they died 10 years ago or 20. It's like,
right.
It's never over.
Grief is never ending. It's definitely something that nobody, unless they know, and your grief looks different than hers and mine. And so many people think that it's just like, oh, yeah, like, get over it. Like,
okay, it's 12 o'clock on,
exactly.
Saturday afternoon, 1 year later. You should be over it by now. And it's not that.
So, besides him, was that your first like major loss?
That was
in
the
your
first
life?
major loss. When I was younger, it was like grandparents and stuff like that, and I didn't really
And
understand.
you understand,
yeah.
but you feel like that's like the way life goes.
Yeah.
Like, naturally, your
full
grandparents
life.
should
Yeah.
go. Should go. Like,
Yeah.
okay. Dang. I just can't imagine. I lost a friend of mine growing up. So I lived in New York, and I was 8, and she died by suicide.
Yeah.
And that was like my first friend.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't know that. But go ahead. I want to hear your story about grief and a little bit.
Grief comes in different forms.
Mm-hmm.
You have the physical loss. Mm-hmm. Then you have the emotional loss, too. So, like, of course, I lost my father. Those who've watched me on the show, I've talked about this before. Well, 20 years ago, my dad died of cancer, so that was very hard. Other than grandparents, that's natural order of things. But to have your father die, like that was hard. But then the emotional side of it was losing a best friend, but not in a physical sense of a betrayal.
Because you don't just have to die to lose
right,
someone.
that betrayal kind of, I can't mess with you no more type of thing, and, having to deal with the loss of this person that's been in your life for so long, having to deal with that emotional side of it. So that also is a form of grief to me.
I agree.
To have to go from talking to someone for every day for the last 20 years to not being
Honey, I've been in your shoes.
Person. Right, to
been
not being able to trust that person. And even though that person still exists, if I really wanted to, I could reach out to this person, but I am mourning that friendship.
Do you think it's harder? And I don't know if you lost friends just by losing them naturally in terms of like not speaking anymore. But do you feel like it's harder to mourn a person that's still alive or a person that is no longer in existence? Like you cannot see them physically ever again.
I think it's harder to lose a person that's still alive because, you know, your friend, your father, your brother, they're physically gone. So there's no way of contacting them other than the spiritual connection and talking to them and God, whatever. But this person still exists. You know, that person, even though they're not in my physical space, that person is still there.
And it's just a call away.
And it's just a call away.
It's more
you
the
know?
like anger side of grief rather than like the sad.
I'm
Yeah.
angry, so I don't know a time that I didn't lose, like, in death someone. My first memory, and I wrote about this, but my first memory, I was 4 years old, and my birth father passed away. And I remember his funeral, and that's my memory.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't remember much of him, and so that's the sad part, but his funeral is my first memory. I feel like I've always been angry.
Yeah.
Like people like, oh, like grief, you're just sad and depressed and you're like, and then you'll finally let it go. But no, I'm fucking pissed. Like at a lot of the things, even in the friendships that I've lost, even in the, like I'm angry in so many different ways. And my story is a little different because no one died of, besides my grandma, no one died of natural causes. My adopted dad died when I was actually 18 years ago, two days ago. A drunk driver hit and run. And then about 5 years ago, my brother, he passed away, but his accident was 6 years ago. He was in a coma. Hit and run as well. Like it's never been. So for me, I'm angry at that. And have you ever felt angry at the what ifs? Like, kind of like.
But that's like torturing yourself.
Yeah, but it's a thing.
Yeah.
Like it's torture.
it's-
I know, like it's ridiculous, but it's like I mourn the things that didn't happen.
Yeah.
Especially with my little brother.
Yeah.
Because he was my little brother and I shouldn't have lived past him, you know, significantly older, you know. So it's like what the fuck? Like I'm mad, you know? And then the whole idea, like I watched he had kids before me. Watching his kids become adults and graduate and stuff, and just like those memories that we didn't get to share, that's what I mourn a lot, especially in the last couple of years, is like, damn, we could have done this, or he would have loved to do this, or like, wow, he would have been on my show acting a fool, or stuff like that, you know what I mean?
Like, with my dad, like he didn't get to see his grandchildren. He would have been over the moon. Having
have grandbabies
grandkids
and they're boys.
and exactly, you know, and one of them's named after him. So, you know, it would have just been amazing for him to babysit them and, you know, take them on road trips, because my dad was an avid, like, road tripper.
And let's just go.
It was like he was a truck driver in another life, because we would just go, like, no, we got to get there at a certain time, and that kind of thing. So just, you know, we didn't get to see that. And, you know, for him to see me doing well and my brother doing his business and, you know, all of that he didn't get to see physically. I'm sure he's looking down on us, but you have to mourn the fact that that's not happening. So it's...
Do you guys, like, I'm going to ask you, Caitlin, because it's like, that's really fresh.
Yeah.
Do you sometimes feel like he was an ex, he was a friend, all of those things, do you feel like kind of stolen from, in a sense, like someone took something that belonged to you because or like damn it, what, or, and I don't even know how he passed, but it's like oh, you weren't speaking, but we have time. And I hear that a lot, but we have time. And everybody thinks that their time is just like here, you know, like Oprah, like giving out money. But time is really not existent. It really is like now.
Because we had just broken up like a couple months before that, so I was still trying to grieve that breakup first, and then that. So it was
I'm
like
so
kind
sorry,
of like,
'cause
it because it was so sudden, it was just it was like
so
a
you
couple.
grieved the friend and the death. All, like, girl, you gave me goosebumps. It's all in one.
There was like a couple weeks before he passed that it was like we were talking about if it was too hard for us to become, like, still stay friends or anything like that. And there was something in me was like, I think we should just talk a little bit longer, be friends a little bit longer until it's, like, way too hard for me. And I'm thinking about, what if I had never said that? Like, what if I didn't have those last couple of weeks to talk to him? And so it does kind of feel like, kind of, like, ripped away from me, but I had
But
a
you
little
had
bit.
that.
I had a little bit, like, something in me was saying,
I'm
I
already
always
getting
say-
it, guys, because like
But
I
yeah.
can't imagine. I
You just never
can't
know,
imagine.
so-
You just don't like. So how my deaths affect me is that I'm always, and this is again not the healthy way to do it, is that I'm always constantly thinking of someone's next, like that constant
How they come
fear.
in threes, like
And-
that's the
and just
thing. You ever know
because-
that?
And just because like they were sudden deaths, like I didn't get the 3 weeks. I didn't get like so my dad stayed in a coma for 3 years, but I didn't get I lost my dad the day of his accident, or my brother too. He lasted an extra year in a coma, but I lost my brother. You know, so it's that the constant fear of like I could get that call at any moment. I honestly, and as psycho as this is, I put my phone on silent every night. I don't want to know. Like I avoid it, and I'm always thinking I'm gonna get that call in the middle of the night, and it's always been like that.
Right.
I've woken up to these things happening to me, so I always think, what's next?
Yeah, like with me, my mother, thank God, but my mother was diagnosed.
She's a tough
with,
cookie.
Oh my goodness, she was diagnosed with breast cancer, and my immediate thought was, here we go again, right? Even though, thank God, it was caught very early. Shout out to getting your mammograms.
And Mama Gaines, because she killed it. She did. Mama Gaines really did well, right?
She did so well, but just the waiting between that and the surgery to
You don't gotta tell me.
and then getting the results from the surgery, I was having anxiety attacks. I could not sleep. I was having nightmares, and it was always, because this was like a couple months before she had her surgery, after we found out, right? So it was the same iteration of a dream where she was supposed to be there, but she wasn't. I couldn't find her. You see what I'm saying? So I'm in these dreams and I couldn't find her, and I was just every night it was some iteration. I'm at some event she needs to be at and I can't find her, or I'm looking for her at a beach somewhere, she's not there. You know, whatever.
I'm gonna need some tissue.
Guys,
and I'm sorry we don't have the handy dandy tissue, but whatever.
just
It is what it
whatever.
is, guys.
But
it is what it is.
it was that. So I had, I already deal with anxiety, depression. So that trauma from losing my dad the same way from cancer just
stops you in your tracks.
stopped it. Just, oh my God. So when the doctor came back and she was recovered like a champ from her mastectomy.
She's ridiculous.
And
That lady is like
she just came back from a cruise.
Yeah.
to celebrate.
Cruise.
It's to celebrate
6
having
weeks after having
mastectomy, right?
you know, but that's my mom.
I'm telling
you. The doctor, I went with her to the doctor's appointment, and the doctor said, "You're good. The margins were clear. You don't need
Praise God.
radiation. You don't need chemo. Go live your life." Just all of this. Oh, I just started talk about ugly crying. It was just
We don't
the
do that on this show, right?
No, we just do that, you know. But just the relief of it all, because I did not want to have to go through that again. It's the waiting, and even with me personally now,
we can
to
talk
give
about it
some
if people come
personal-
to about.
some personal information I'm waiting on. That's why I'm in a sling right now. Waiting on biopsy results.
So I
And
want to talk
it's
about that
crazy, yeah.
because like we always think grief is just like, oh, someone died, get over it, all this stuff. But you grieve so many different things. Like I don't understand. Like even you, like the what if of that. And I know that you're happy and you've moved on in your own relationship, but it's still like you still will wonder. So now you're going through your waiting. I know I went through the same it'll be 2 years. Well, it was 2 years when I was diagnosed in June, but of my surgery.
Yeah.
And people don't understand how the thought of losing yourself to death and just getting checked for a mammogram even though like men don't know, but like even that, like,
That it's
holy
in the back
shit,
of your
like,
head that they could find something.
yeah,
You just never know.
regardless, right?
Regardless of your
Regardless
health.
if you're
Right.
healthy. And it's I don't have a better word. It's a mind fuck. I'm sorry, guys. It is. But like that of like, oh, not knowing and what could be. And, oh, my kids are going to, you know, I have 2 boys.
Yeah.
They're going to lose their mom, or your family's going to lose Auntie
Diva. you know?
Yeah.
And it's
So,
like,
and even then, like, in every ways, like, you probably felt like you lost a part of yourself
Yeah.
for a very long
That's-
time, if not still going through. Like, that's the part of grief that a lot of people don't talk about. Like,
Yeah.
oh, she's crying, she's upset because she lost somebody. But it's like everything, all these different things, all these different
Right.
emotions. You didn't even lose your mom and you were mourning her.
yeah.
And what people don't understand is it's possible to do that. You do
It's just
mourn
that, you
people.
know, you try not to worry, and I'm a Christian, and you believe in God, and, you know, your logic tells you God's got it, which I truly believe. But then you have the other side of yourself that's worries, you know.
'Cause you're a
and
human and-
I'm
Yeah.
human, you know, you worry about that. I worry about the what ifs. And I
I'm
worry
always
about,
like that,
you know,
though.
just the little things. Oh, the doctor had this look in his eye when he told me, you know, and now I'm thinking about the look in his eye that, you know, we're
was
gonna
that
do
a wink, or
biopsy.
was that he was
know,
upset?
that's what I'm saying, you know? Now he's looking at me intensely after surgery. We're going to do the pathology. I'm just like, so now I'm concentrating on his look. And it could be nothing. It could be clear. It
I'm
could
the
be
same way, though.
completely
Yeah.
good. You good, live your life. And just
I pay
like my
attention
mom,
to even how they walk. Like, oh,
Exactly.
he didn't look too happy walking in
He's
here.
walking in here fast, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you're just
Oh.
gonna, and it's just gonna compound on you.
Yep.
And it could be nothing.
Yeah.
But your mind just takes you there. That anxiety just
I
takes
have
you there.
I have really bad like health anxiety, so it's been
Yeah.
since it's really kind of sparked when he died, because I was like, you can die at any point, and it's been like
The fear, it's
yeah.
an overwhelming sense of I truly feel like nobody talks about that, because now you think anyone can die. Anyone
Which
can
has
die.
always
at
been
any time.
true.
Absolutely, but who the hell is
multiplies, right? But,
but
it
it's
just multiplies when it
it's,
happens.
It's
yeah.
in your. It's a constant.
Yeah.
It's a. I feel like every day and I'm a freaking masochist. I know that this probably isn't the right thing to
I'm gonna
do.
drink on that one. Go ahead.
I know this, but I truly sometimes picture it or have dreams of people dying, like specific people in my life that are maybe too like close to me that I don't want to picture.
Yeah.
I will have dreams, vivid dreams, as if they died, waking up thinking that this happened,
And
like
then being relieved that
yeah, getting a
it's
call,
not.
like oh God, I'm gonna cry, but
Yeah, but that's part of it. That's part of life. But, you know, dreams don't always necessarily directly translate to that. So, you know, it could be could be something else.
I'm just
But,
fearful. Like I
you know,
picture. I love
Yeah.
you, Devonna. So I pictured you dead. Like, and that's a psychotic thing to say. No, in the best.
No, I get you. I get what you're
It
saying.
scares about
You're
you.
right.
Yes.
I love you, but you don't.
Yes.
No, but everyone in my dreams has.
Right.
Like anyone that's really meaningful to me in
Yeah.
any point of my life, and that I know is not a healthy thing. I know that. But since I was tiny, that's all I've known.
Yeah.
So even though I've had major deaths in my family that were tragic, like I've had a lot of death, and I know you have too, lots of deaths. So this is like in a year, 15 to 20 people, easy. Like, and
Especially during COVID, like that.
Oh,
was
yeah.
just-
it's been 10,
Oh.
probably in the last 10. Actually, I would say even to say from when my dad passed, my adopted dad 18 years ago, nonstop. Like I don't know a time where I could remember like I didn't hear someone dead. Like, and the different varieties, but they're always usually very like traumatic. Just happen in the split of a second. Even suicide. I'll tell you, like 3 years ago we had a death by suicide in my family, and it's just like I don't know if that has happened to any of you guys, but very much a different animal, because
I have
this
not
person wanted
experienced that. Yeah.
like and then the what did I miss, like should I
Yeah.
have been kinder, sweeter, like should I gotten them ice cream, like I think of all those things. I think it's the grief of I mean, and to somebody who's lost a parent to that, or a brother or any sibling, like I can't even imagine.
Yeah.
Because I lost a nephew and it was just like,
Yeah. But in those situations,
Jeez.
the logical side of it is that depression is just like any other disease.
yeah.
That there's really, there's nothing you could have done.
Yeah, I
And
get
that's
that
logic.
logically.
Right.
But
logic
girl, ask
and
me
Fighting
ask
the
me how
logic
this
brain is
feels.
hard.
Yeah,
Right,
no,
that's
truly,
hard, yeah.
no, truly, different animal. I think for my kids, that was the first for them who died like suicide. Like they didn't even really understand it, and they were old enough to understand.
Yeah.
But I'm old enough to understand. I don't
Right.
understand it. So, it was the first. They've had just as much death. I mean, my kids mourn my dad. They never met. I was pregnant when my dad passed. So it's that. But then when they mourned my nephew, it was a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
Like, because I had to get one of my kids to therapy. And therapy.
Let's
That's
talk
about
the only
therapy.
thing that got me
Because,
through.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because with me, the grief, not the grief, but the guilt that I had carried dealing with my father's death, I didn't even realize that's what it was. Guilt. Well,
Oh, there's
depression,
a lot of guilt.
because we didn't talk about it. We didn't,
We
didn't talk about
I don't
depression.
know about like race thing, but it is a thing where
Yeah.
I know like brown and black people do not
Yeah, you just pray about
do
it.
therapy.
Pray
Like
about it,
therapy's
go
like
away.
unheard
You
of
know
in my.
about it.
I'm the only one that's been to therapy besides one of my
Right.
kids in my whole that I know of my
Right.
whole family.
Yeah.
So
But once I
Yeah.
started therapy, I realized how that manifested itself in everything. For I didn't start therapy until maybe 5 or 6 years ago. So imagine since 2004 to 2019.
It's a lot of pent up.
yeah.
That's a
Yeah.
lot of pent up. So when I realized what it was like, oh my God, that's what it was. And then you're thinking about all this stuff, and you're thinking that people are I thought that my family was mad at me or was disappointed in me. That disappointment was worse than being mad at me in my life. But
Disappointments. rough.
was disappointed in me because I felt like they thought I could do more when it came to, before my dad passed, because I was sick at the same time. I was at death's door at the exact, I went into the hospital the day after we buried my dad. I almost died. So I'm thinking, I couldn't go up to the hospital and sit with him. I'm envying my brother being able to spend all those hours with him. And he's thinking, oh, it wasn't all that great. You think, I'm thinking they're having all these deep conversations about life. And,
It's
do
hard.
this,
I'll tell you
and,
one thing.
I
It's
want you
not
to
that
live
way.
this kind of life. And I'm thinking that they're having all of this time.
Yeah.
And Shemai's like, no, he was throwing up and he was,
Cancer.
sleeping and he was in pain and all of this. And I, that's what I sat through. So he's envying me and I am envying him at the same time. And we both had no idea what the other one was going through at the time. Because I physically couldn't get to the hospital.
Yeah.
So I felt so much guilt with that. I did not get there in time before he died to take his last breath. And the reasons why I couldn't get there were health related. So I had the guilt about that. Oh, so then when
I know it's coming, girl.
It's
Take
coming.
a sip.
So when my mom, and I just told my mom this the other day. So when my mom had her surgery, it was in the exact same hospital my dad died. So imagine that.
That happened to
Right? So imagine that. And then I didn't get there in time enough to see her go back into the surgery. So Tremaine texts me. She was asking for you. And I hear she's going back into surgery. And that call came in the exact point on Princeton and Orange Avenue where I was when I found out my dad died. So imagine that.
Yeah.
Girl, I lost it. The mere thought of my mom
going the same way, and I missed it. Thank God it didn't happen.
But you got to show yourself a little bit more grace. Do you
I had
have
to
that
carry
guilt
that.
too with her? Have you felt that kind of? I feel like survivor's guilt is a real thing. Like, why can I be alive today and not say my little brother or even my dad? Because today's his birthday, by the way. He would have been 69. So, but do you have a lot? Yours is fresh. Do you feel? Was he around your same age? Because you're young.
We're born in the same year, so I was a few months older than him. That's I got a tattoo on my hand of his age that he passed away, and it kind of is like a reminder that like, he doesn't get to turn 28, 29, like 30,
and
yeah. It's
Devonna, you're gonna make me cry with this one because, so I remember where my brother passed away.
Yeah.
And jeez, girl, I told myself I wasn't gonna do this. Not that bad. Where I had my surgery for my cancer, same hospital, and it just happened to happen that way. I was scheduled for a different hospital, and that didn't work out. And you know how medical stuff just doesn't work.
Yeah.
But I feel like it worked. I feel like that it was such a poetic way of look, your mom survived, all that stuff. So for me, I felt good. Like, oh, he's gonna protect. Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, guys, surgery's gonna
Your
be a
guardian
breeze, you
angel
know.
type of thing, right?
But initially going in there,
Yeah.
that was not how I felt.
Yeah.
I felt like oh, okay, this is gonna be the same fate. Like, I felt like, okay, this is probably where I'll go. Like, okay, it makes sense. But I have an overwhelming sense of guilt because I left alive and he didn't. The same exact place.
Yeah.
And I feel like he would tell me, "Girl, get over it. You're good. I got your back." I know he talked.
Yeah.
He would talk to
I'm
me
sure
like
you
that.
probably
but-
talking shit from him.
Exactly.
Like, girl, you did not get hit. Like, you were in an accident. You good.
Like, why are you crying? Suck
Right.
it up. Like, my brother was tough. Like, he would get, but he really would have been like, really,
Yeah.
But I will say that I don't have guilt of not being there when he was in his coma.
Yeah.
I feel like that saved me
Yeah.
a lot of heartache.
I can imagine.
Every
Like,
day.
girl.
Well, the grief every day of like my dad 3 years, my brother 1, but that's another grief in itself. Like, am I gonna get the call today? And every day for 3 years, every day for a year was like I didn't know if I was gonna get a call that day.
Right. Yeah, I remember you telling me.
Girl,
I
for my
remember.
brother,
Yeah.
you were around, and I isolated myself because that's what I do. Because I like to be the happy person. I am a happy person by
I was
nature.
trying to get her out. She would not. She would not.
I was dead. All I did was go work,
Yeah.
feed my kids, and go to the hospital. And I basically lived like visiting him, and I have no regrets about that. And I feel like a lot of people in my family that do, and I'm saying it as clear as day. You could hear me say it louder in the back. I don't care. Is the reason why a lot of people in my family have issues now is because they just weren't as present. And you had an excuse, Devonna, and I get that for you that's not an excuse.
Right.
But I know you, and had you been willing, like able, you'd be willing. You'd be
Yeah,
there.
and I
Like,
wanted
and
to
so you
be
got to
there.
give yourself that grace.
And I didn't know how to do that. I
But-
did not know how to give
Therapy.
myself that grace.
Oh,
Therapy.
Therapy.
Oh, yeah.
It's like literally, and I didn't realize what it was because it manifests itself into depression, which manifests itself into me overeating and then not caring about life. It just impacted. And you imagine that snowball rolling down the hill and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Huge.
And I literally got huge. I literally got huge. And so when, I started therapy because I forget why. It just got to a point where you can only lose so many jobs. You can only sit in your house for so long. And, you're just sitting there wasting your life away. I'm 40 years old, and what did I have to show for my life? And so I said, let's try something different. And I started to go to therapy. And, it's hard to trust a stranger to give them these intimate thoughts that you haven't even told
Hard.
Yeah.
I was like,
Yeah.
my first session of therapy.
You can't even tell.
She's like, you came here. I'm like, I know.
Right, you
Sitting
know?
there with attitude because I was like, I don't feel.
Like, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like,
what you gonna help me with, lady? Did
But,
you
you
feel
know-
that way too?
I was actually the opposite. Well, it was my mom's therapist. My mom had stopped
I'm
going to
sorry to
her
interrupt.
and just was like, "Here's my daughter, and she's going through something." So I kind of like already had like a trust in her because my mom trusted her. So
I don't know if I could
See.
do that because I'd be scared that therapist is going to tell my mama.
What doesn't Miss Gaines know about you already, though? Well,
Yes.
don't answer that. Don't answer
yeah,
that.
not
Not
gonna
on,
get into
not
that.
on national
But
TV.
yes, but so when I started that, and,
International.
International. Don't sell yourself short. But
I'm
anyway,
trying not to.
But I'm telling this complete stranger something that haven't even told my family, and she was like, "You realize that this is guilt from your dad's passing, and this is where the depression is coming from, and I was just like, it was just like a click, light went off, like,
For me, it
Once you
wasn't.
find the root,
Mine
yeah.
manifested in anger. Chip shoulder. It was there. Both shoulders had a chip. But it was not like I've always been. You know me for a long time. Like I've always been me. But if you touched a subject that was sensitive, rawr. No. If you hurt me in any, like, now I'm so far past that, but when I was younger, especially, I had to be better for my kids. I had to, and I thank God that I did therapy. So it's so funny. I did therapy in between my dad and my brother. But my brother died, my grandma died right after, and both suddenly. Then I lost a cousin, then I lost. But in that time, that was probably the hardest time of my life when my brother was in a coma, and then I lost my grandma, and then, he passed. It was kind of like I was sort of reverting, like I was angry again.
Yeah.
And I had to catch myself because mine is anger. Mine is like, well, there for a long time, and this is such a petty way of thinking, but I was young. It was more like, well, they didn't deserve to die, but who deserves to die? You know what I'm saying? Who deserves to die in the way they did? But I was angry. And then because it was a drunk driver, that sparked a whole nother side of me. So I was just like, and they both, hit and runs in my family are like, my sister went through one. I went through one this year. But my sister almost was left for dead too. My sister just survived and she was okay, thank God. But like in my family, that's a thing.
Yeah.
It really is. Like I feel like it's a family curse in a way. And I'm just breaking that cycle. Like I'm really not thinking like that.
yeah,
Because if you're manifesting shit, like you don't realize in your pain, in your grief, you're constantly thinking about it. But then what do you think? Your thoughts become reality. So then I started to learn like, my kids are not going to go through that. They're not going to watch the hardest thing. And I know you probably know, like watching someone slowly die, one of the worst things.
yeah.
I don't know which is, like, I lost them that day of their accident, but to watch them, like their body slowly
Yeah,
go.
it was wild for me because my dad, you see my brother, my dad was literally, my brother is the body shape of him, 6'5", 300-pound body, offensive lineman type of body. To have them literally deteriorate in front of your eyes, and there's nothing you can do about it.
That's what made me angry.
That just, and he was only 52. Like, I'm coming up on his age. Like, I'm gonna be 48 in January.
Shh, don't she look good? No.
No, but I'm gonna be,
But
I'm gonna
truly,
be 48 in January, and I that age just scares me because you want to live longer than your parents, obviously, but it's like, whoa. And then to have this happen to me now I gotta wait 10 days to find out if I gotta go through.
Doctors need to do better about, like,
Girl.
can you just get it now? Like,
I know.
Really? Like, why does
Yeah.
it take 10
Yes.
days? That's gonna be torture.
They just told my mom she needs an ultrasound for something, and they were like, okay, you can get your ultrasound in 2 weeks, and then the results 2 weeks after that.
my
I'm
doctor
like,
told me to rush an ultrasound. The ultrasound place is like, well, we have something in about 3 weeks. Then what? Like, yeah,
Listen,
it
I've
doesn't
been
make
going through
sense.
this for
months.
You'll
sense to
die
me.
before they
I
have.
have been
Yeah.
going through before I can even. I had my surgery on Tuesday. I've been going through this process since May.
It's crazy. It really is like,
And it grew, and it
that's a
grew,
whole
and it
nother
grew.
grief all in
That's a whole
itself.
other thing of anger, and then you get it. Okay, it's gonna be 10 days. So what am I supposed to do for 10 days?
I don't know,
Cry.
You know,
Think about it constantly.
try not to obsess about it.
Girl,
you
I know
It's
you.
so
just
hard
like-
not to obsess about
It's
it.
so
How do you not
Yeah.
obsess about something that could
That's-
mean you not being alive? Like,
Literally.
they're like, don't just take a vacation. You're like, doctors are funny.
We want to
Doctors
be
are-
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, be sure faster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So I got diagnosed in June and didn't have surgery until October, and all of that time waiting, I felt like nobody was interested in helping me survive. Like I felt my doctor was good, but it's so clinical, and I wish they had and I hear that some people and some
you know, they're so
so you might die, but by the way, we
got
all
the margin.
Great.
It's a beautiful day. Who the hell cares today?
Yeah.
The weather.
Tea
You know what
time
I'm
is
saying?
such and
Like,
such a time.
do you guys think, like, I want to touch more on friendships or even people, because, like, I feel like I had to cut off a lot of people, or a lot of people, I wouldn't say a lot of people cut me off, because I'm not that bad. No, just kidding. But like, did I throw shade? Yes, I did.
Yes. That's okay.
But I just feel like that grief is not talked about. We just act like we don't care. I'm like, oh, she did me dirty. I don't care. I care too.
I
I'm a
care
softie for
a
friends.
lot.
I have had really rough upbringing in childhood and don't have a lot of family. So like I created this family with friends. And if I call you my friend, that word is thick. Like,
Yeah.
but if I call you my friend or I say I got you, I like, so the wheels fall off. I really do. But people just aren't the same. People suck sometimes.
People are peopling, is what I say.
And
it's-
heavy, right? Heavy.
Yeah, but I don't call, and I also feel like people use the friend word too loosely. Everybody's my friend. Everybody's my sister.
When I was younger,
and I'm guilty
for
of
sure.
that.
When I was younger,
And I'm guilty of that. Hey, friend,
no, you're not my friend now.
Don't ask me-
I like
don't
you
ask me
though.
what you do, because I wouldn't know what
Yeah.
it is, But people who are my true friends, and then to
Family.
all of it, family,
at the-
cousins, as we say in the black community.
yeah,
You my
yeah,
cousin,
yeah. I got so many sisters. It's like-
sisters and cousins that have no blood relation, but when you lose that, it's also very hard. It's hard for me because I grow attached. This person is
It's personal.
a part of my life and ingrained in my
It's
life.
personal
I've
for
lost
me too.
I can think of 3 good girlfriends that
They're lost.
thought were
Sorry guys, they're lost. Let's keep
I
it
thought
real.
were sisters. I'm 2 in particular I knew since I was 10 years old, and to go through college together, and adulthood, and they have children and all of this, and then to have something and it's not petty to me. What happened? And one of them, I don't even know why they don't talk to me anymore. Which
Honey,
is fine.
we're not gonna touch on that for
I
my.
don't know.
Yeah.
You're not even woman enough to tell me what's going on if I did something. But I digress.
Do you feel like you grieve more when you don't know what the hell happened?
I
A
did.
little bit, yeah.
I did, because I'm like, I'm trying to reach out to you. I'm trying to have the conversation. And
I'm
then
that
you
person until you
block
really
me, you
shit on
block
me, and then I'm
and
done.
everything.
Yeah.
You don't return my phone calls. We've known each other since we were 10 years old. And then I feel like I have earned that.
Yeah.
But
When people are like, "Oh, you don't owe them an explanation," or someone doesn't owe you an explanation, I'm getting refilled. I'm not the best studio manager, guys. He knows the emotions are running high.
I'm good, thank you.
For me, it's like that's the grief. Like what the hell? The what the F, really?
And then it's like, okay, because I know she lives in the area. What would happen if I run into her?
Yeah.
After 20 years
Dang, at that
of
point,
not speaking.
at that point, I wouldn't even
wish
care
you
to.
would. I
Yeah.
wish you would come. Hey, Devonna, I wish you, girl.
I'm waiting on all those that wanna sue Jamie.
Girl.
Cause bye. I know. Like, please. What about you? Have you had friends or even like people in your life that you thought were like
Yeah.
family at that point, and you had to grieve them?
That's one of my best friends growing up. She was just posting some off-kilter stuff on Facebook, and I was like, I don't really want to be associated with that anymore. And I just kind of was like, I laid it out, and I said, I don't think I can be your friend if you're going to continue doing this. And I kind of just let it go. It's hard, like, looking through Facebook memories and being like, she was there all the time.
Yeah. So I have the one that it sits with me the most. Actually, in the last 2 years, I've had 3, but truly, and one really like just yesterday, in my opinion. But the one that sat with me she was like such family. She was at my brother's memorial service. Like, she was family. My kids mourn her too, and she was just out of nowhere. Like, I don't know what happened. She told me I was the best person and mother she knew one day, and I never heard from her again. And it's I don't know if it's a her problem. I feel like it is.
Yeah.
But
It's part
it
of you
happened
think it's you. It's part of you think it was you.
for a long time. But I had to really sit with the fact that I hold accountability where accountability needs to be held. But if I don't really know, then how can I hold myself?
Fix it?
Like,
Yeah.
and I'm a very open person. Like, I'll usually know when someone's energy is off. She was great at faking it, like, because she had done it a couple times like this. But when she did it, my brother had just died. So it's like, girl, why'd
so
you?
that compounded it.
Yeah.
Girl, I had to mourn both of them literally at the same time, and so I can't forgive that. Like, I'm at your point where it's like, I did for a long time, kind of, and then COVID happened right around, like, so hey, girl, like, are you okay? Nothing. And then I just said, do I even want a damn friend that's like gonna do that?
Exactly.
Because she would kind of come and go, but this is the longest I haven't spoken to her, and I'm good. By the way, I'm good. But it was such a like, just why'd you even come back? Because she kind of came around before my brother's thing, and then you could have just stayed gone, because it hit that much harder right after my brother's death. I was like, cold-hearted is not the word. And she knew my brother. You know what I'm saying? It was just like, wow. That one's hit the worst, and I still think about it, but I don't want it anymore. Like, I still like, dang, like, my kids asked for her. She was an aunt to my children. Like, that was, and I don't say that often either, because, as you know, like, I'm so particular about, even if you're my friend, I don't know that you can come around my kid. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how I'm very particular. But she was like, listen, slept over, like, that kind of friend. But now I just know, I know me more, because I had to go through that. And I'm not going to take nobody's bullshit. So, like, you learn something, right?
You learn more about yourself. You learn how strong you are.
Yep.
And you learn that, you love yourself more than to have to allow that kind of
you learn what you'll
it's like when you have to pick you
over
them. Because sometimes I have been the one to be like, but I'm always about a conversation. Like you said to your friend, like, hey, like, I don't think, like, this is gonna, like, but that's a real, like, I'm not a ghoster. So if I, like, I mean, I haven't had to ghost no one.
Sometimes they don't want to hear it, and it's not a conversation.
And I mean, I feel like I recently had a friend that just didn't want to hear it, probably, and knew that they were doing things that they shouldn't have, and so they went away. But that was cool. Thank you. That one was good, because it was more like, I mean, I still mourned it, but not the same way. Because I feel like that's a you thing, boo. Like, I'm good, and I can hold myself accountable. When you guys think about the most pain, and I want to get deep a little bit because I know that a lot of people we don't talk about this stuff. We're just like, oh girl, that girl's brother died, let's send flowers, and then like you do your part. Actually, talking about that, what do you think is a good thing to do for someone else to do for someone who is mourning or grieving the loss of a loved one?
Sometimes it's just your presence. You don't have to do anything, right? Of course, you want to, let them know you're praying for them, thoughts and prayers, that kind of thing. But the way thoughts and prayers go over these days, people are like, whatever. Yeah. But for me, I can speak for myself. If I, God forbid, lose someone close to me like that, just be there. Just come sit. You don't even have to say anything, that kind of thing. Just sit in my presence. Give me a hug. Let me know it's, you're there for me. And that's all it takes sometimes. You don't need to. And in the Black community, what we do is
feed us. Feed us. That's what I was going to say. I tell everybody, like, even though you see these, like shows where the casserole, but a meal, like, especially if someone has a family to tend to, like,
that's
for
the
me.
last thing we want to do is cook.
Yep.
So that's one thing I do remember about when my dad died. We had so much food.
What's something for you?
Just being there. I think he died in New York and I'm in Florida, so I just dropped everything and I was there for his sister and his mom and his friend and everything like that. And I think that at the end of the day, they were just like, thank you for being here. Yeah. Like, just a presence that knows the grief too.
You're gonna think I'm crazy because I have a hard time sharing my grief, so I get really quiet and in my zone, leave me the hell alone. And what I'm learning is just like, that's not healthy either. She's looking at me crazy because she knows I do this. I'm just a person that has to process how I'm feeling before I can even share it. Yeah. And how do you process something that, like, while my brother was in his coma, like, I could not even process things. Like, people would ask me questions and I was like short with them, like short fuse. And so then I got quieter because there was a lot of chaos around his accident. There was a lot of chaos around his stay at the hospital and all of that. And people made it more difficult than it had to be. So I was like the spokesperson for the family and it became a lot. And I wanted to be left alone for a long time. But I agree with you guys that I should have had someone there because that was the loneliest I've ever been in my life. Yeah. I muted myself, so it's my fault. I know that. But for a long time, I just wanted to be left alone. And I wasn't, like everyone. I mean, and people come out of the woodwork, like people that truly have never cared for my brother, barely know his name, that are family. We're like, oh, tell me everybody wants to know everything.
Sometimes they're just trying to be nosy.
Every time time my phone rang, it was about that, and it was never genuine care. Because genuine care is like, show up. Like I was kind of tired of like expressing myself on the phone, and so I wanted just like everything to stop. Yeah. But then when it finally did, I was just left lonely. Yeah. I was left like nobody knew. I mean, my husband at the time was like he didn't understand why, because he had only lost at that point his father, and it was to cancer, but it was very quick, and his father was much older, so it was like kind of like a general progression of life versus sudden. Like this. And then so he would always be like, well, girl, get over it. Like, he was a get over it kind of person, but it was just, I think he just didn't understand how to do it, and that's another thing. Like, sometimes I feel like people who lose people want to be understood, but how can you understand something that you've never been through? Yeah. Exactly. Like, and that was girl therapy that I learned because I was so angry. Like, nobody understands. And she's like, did he go through that, or did she go through that? And it was just like a learning lesson for me. Well, no. And then how can you, like, they could be empathetic, but they can't understand.
Exactly.
Like, my dad didn't die to cancer, but many of my family members did. But I still can't understand what you went through, or your grief is different, because I can't imagine. I can't imagine either. I lost my dad, but it's different. It's different. And then just to lose a friend as an adult in general, and if I lost a friend, guys, you all have to outlive me. All of y'all. I'm just saying that. Hey, Melissa, anybody listening? I don't want to hear it.
And I do not deal with death very well.
Me neither.
You know, and I don't know anybody who truly, like, for example, I look at how my mom took my dad's dying. Now, mind you, they were high school sweethearts. They were together since
I
they
have
were
something to talk about
16
with
years
this.
old. And to see her be a rock through that 30 years of marriage, and to be a rock through that. And I'm sure she cried. And, you know, she left. She actually went up to Virginia after, because, you know, the hardest part is when the funeral's over and everybody goes home.
Because, like, you don't have a home. Like, your home's different.
An empty house, you know, an empty bed if you were married to this person. So I still think about, like, I don't know if that's how I would have done it. I've seen people who trust, like, you know, this is God's way of, you know, it was his time, and, like, you know,
that.
It was his time, and, you know, God has called them home, and I am okay with that, and I understand that, and part of me would understand that, but my mind would not.
The emotional
side of it can't comprehend that. But I've seen people just be stoic, not in a bad way, but, you know, he is with the Lord now, and I know that, and I know that's where my dad is, and, you know,
but it's still damn hurts.
It still feels
like, it's still damn hurts.
So I
like,
admire people, and I wonder, I look at people. I went to a funeral recently, and my cousin passed away, and how confident and just solid his children were.
Girl,
I admired that about y'all,
but I'm gonna sit over here.
I would be a wreck. I would be a complete wreck.
For me, when my dad died, and I was going through a lot, because I had a really hard pregnancy, and I was on bed rest, and so I couldn't fly, so I had to drive. And so we drove to New York, because, again, that's where we're from too. And he driving there, I'm picturing, like, I have this picture of how everyone is and how upset everyone is, and my grandmother must be destroyed. It's her first baby, and, like,
my goodness.
And she wasn't. And I was pissed the F off.
Yeah.
And
because you don't understand, how is she not?
She is so faith driven, and she is so, no, she was destroyed. I know that.
Yeah, but
like, I remember, and I remember telling my husband at the time, like, why? Like, I was mad, like, furious. Like, everyone's just, they were telling jokes, and I deal with things in a funny way. I just couldn't that time. And I was pregnant, I was sick, I was just angry, and I was just like, they're laughing. She was, and I knowing her, how she was trying to cope with it. I know that that's what we do in this family. Like, we just make a joke, and I loved her for that, like, for lightening the load for us, but I was so mad for so long. Like, I had to process that, and I had to maybe go through more grief to understand, like, she was just being there for us. Right. She was being the rock that we needed. We just lost our dad. You know what I'm saying?
Was. Like, she was trying to be the rock for us.
And my grandmother was one of the strong. I mean, she's my mom to me, so I call her mom. But she's the strongest woman I ever known in my life. Ever. Like, she raised 4 boys on her own and busted her butt. Like, you just never saw her struggle, but she struggled, obviously, you know? But, like, to her, like, watching her was just like, okay, she got this handled. How could she? Her first baby, and watch slowly pass away for 3 years.
But your faith carries you through that,
but
too.
And so for me, when she passed, in a weird way, I found peace. In the weirdest way, I was like, girl, what you doing to me up there? Like, you just, but in the weirdest way, it was so peaceful. And she helped me deal with my brother, and just that much better. Like, she was ready, even though, like, it was sudden, and we didn't know she was sick, and then she was sick and done. Like it wasn't like a long process. I thought I was just visiting her for the 4th of July holiday, and she passed away July 5th. Like, and we just thought she was, quickly became, okay, this is going to be her last days. But stoic. And she was just like, okay, guys, like, so don't mourn me. I'm like, but she was trying to drive the train before she even died. Like, okay, so this is what you're gonna act like. Make sure you keep your family together. I'm like this lady, because I would
my
never.
funeral more than an hour long.
No, she didn't even want one. She was like, I wish you guys would have a funeral.
Oh, wow.
She was that, and then we got together anyway. Sorry, sorry, Mom, but it's just that like. I didn't understand that she was just being strong for us. So when my brother died, because my kids didn't know my dad, but when my brother's accident happened, and I would bring them with me purposefully, so like I wanted them to have an understanding of death without being afraid of it. But I knew what she did for me in that time. I knew what she was doing, because I had to do the same. And but I still boohoo cried for my brother, but I still handled it that much better,
She showed you.
And I would like to think that, when that day comes, hopefully not even too soon, that I can be that, being the oldest, that rock for the family. I don't even want to
I'm not
think
even the
about
oldest,
that,
but I'm the rock. I'm the
and I want to be that, but girl, I'm an emotional wreck just thinking about the possibility.
Are
of
you
it.
guys like deep feelers? Because I feel like there's people that even though they are hurting by a death, they're not as triggered. But then there's these people that like I feel everything deeply. I'm one of those. Like I care deeply, I feel deeply, I love deeply. So if someone dies,
emphatic about it. So if I know
girl,
that you're
empathy
like
is
that,
a bitch, man.
Nobody cries alone in my presence. So I'm.
We cry, girl. You were upset. I'm like, give me tissue.
I feel that. Yeah.
What is something each of you would want to tell someone, like a word of advice when it comes to like dealing with grief in any form?
Your feelings are valid.
I agree with that.
Your feelings are valid. Do not compare your grief
to anyone else.
I know that's easier said than done.
Yeah.
But the way you grieve is the way you grieve, and how you feel about it is the way you feel about it.
I agree.
Yeah.
I'm gonna ask you something after that, but I want to hear what would you say to people?
Probably just feel your feelings. Don't push them aside.
Don't mask them.
Yeah, don't mask them. Cry when you need to. Scream when you need to. Like
Get them
get
pissed off.
Get them out. Feel.
I wanna
Actually
get, like,
feel
a bat
them.
and just-
Yes.
They have
need to,
they have like a
They have rooms for that, and I want to. Can we do that? Because like I deal better, but I still want to break something, right? Like I
feels
still want to
good.
be like, hey, like a day like today, I'm like, oh, my oldest will be 18 soon, and he's he's never met a grandfather. He used to tell me, and it was my oldest Chico is very much like me, very sensitive, very. And he used to be like, why don't you have any family? And I remember breaking, like laughing it off, and then breaking down, like, we have lots of family. We just don't have the organic, natural grandparents, family that any traditional person would have. And I'm like, but we have tons of people that love us. That's family. So I had to explain that. I mean, we have a lot of cousins, but, like, I don't have immediate family like that. It's just 2 siblings, and one of them I never see. So, but when you talked about don't let anybody, like, the comparison, that kills me every time, and not necessarily in the form of losing people, but like for the cancer, like for the grieving of myself. I so feel guilty. I know a friend of mine battling it now. We had similar cancers, and yet she chemo, all of that, and it's just like I don't want to say I got lucky. I was really blessed, but that is another grief. I feel guilty for surviving something that could have killed me, but might kill somebody else. And I hate it. Hate it. And I don't talk about this ever.
I have a friend who, I get that. Like, I have a friend who we went through similar health issues, and I've come through that on the other side, and she's still dealing with it.
Yeah.
And, you know, I still see her. I try to be there for her and encourage her, you know, motivate
Some people
her.
just don't want
Because
that.
it's like, you know,
Do or
I
die.
see, you know, I've been through it. So if I can get through it, you can too. But then at the same time, I don't let her lie to me either. It's like, you do know that these excuses that you make don't fly with me because I know. Right.
I did it.
So I know those excuses because
Yeah.
I used to say those excuses, right? So you can't lie to me. You can't fake the funk with me because I know you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So what are you really going to do?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
Do you
So,
guys find yourself always like I learned this the other day from actually hi Melissa. My best friend calls me out. Like she you know, and what I learned is that I apologize a lot because people that have gone through so much trauma and so much pain and so much grief almost feel like they can't exist in a regular world. And I didn't know that. This was a life lesson like 2 weeks ago.
oh, okay.
Yeah.
Like I just learned
Okay.
that I was doing that, and I think it's because of, you know, like I'm always apologetic when I didn't do shit wrong. You know what I mean? Are you guys like that?
No.
I knew your answer, but I was gonna ask it anyway. But it's a lot of it, and it probably can deal with, like, I was dealing with grief as a childhood, the grief of my mom. My mom's still alive, but she was an abusive woman who allowed abusive people in my life. I had to grieve her, but that kind of sorry. I'm always sorry.
Yeah, I could be empathetic.
Yeah.
You know, I
But
can
no,
be
I'm
like,
always genuinely like sorry. Like if I did something, like when you were crying, I'm like, why? Thinking to myself, like, why? I'm about to apologize to her. Why did I make her feel that
that
kind of
wasn't-
sorry?
yeah, that's
and it's not my fault. Like this is
No,
genuine.
yeah.
But do you feel that you do that, Kaylee?
Yeah, just sorry if I did anything.
Yeah, but
Like,
constant,
yes.
right? Yes.
See, that's the thing. I don't do that.
Yeah.
So I'd be like, I know I didn't do nothing. You know? But, you know, so
I'm getting to your point, so I'm in transition.
Like, I know I didn't.
But I definitely am still an apologizer. I am a constant. The word sorry is probably the word I use the most. And a true friend would tell you, like, hey, girl, like, that's not coming from you're genuinely sorry. You're probably sorry, but all the things else in your life. But grief will
And
do that
sometimes it
too.
can be worse for you to do that.
Honey, I know.
No, it is bad.
You
I know.
Like, what are you sorry for? Like, this compounded.
That's what happened. I was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And she's like, what are you sorry
Yeah.
for? Like, you know what I mean?
Because it could come off as patronizing now.
Well, and I think,
And-
well, she knows me better. But
Well,
I
yeah,
think
but if a
at
person doesn't
times,
know.
at times, maybe.
Yeah.
But because I'm not a patronizing person. Like, if I'm going to make fun of you, I'm going to tell you I'm making fun of you. Like, I really am. Like,
But you know, if you, don't know if you don't know the person,
But and yes,
And
and I
he's
think
like,
she was
yeah.
calling me out in
You
the
know?
sense of like
Exactly.
one thing to acknowledge that I'm doing it, and another like change the behavior because then others, and I don't really care too much about what others think about me, but I do care about how I make other people
Yeah.
feel. You know, I'm not that person. This was a great conversation.
Yeah.
I wanna or do you want to share something, and then I want you guys to kind of like plug yourselves. I did want to share the hotline, the national helpline, on here.
very important.
Yeah, for
'Cause
grief,
everybody doesn't
for
have someone to talk
not
to.
like, and we could talk to our now, and there's
Mm-hmm.
podcasts out there, but not everyone has that, and I'm fully aware. Like even though I may have had a few people in my life that I could go to, I went to no one.
Yeah.
Like I was like to everyone I was great, and I've always been great. And it's not until now and recent that I'm just owning all of me, and that's part of me. And if you
Yeah.
can't deal with that part, because that's a constant part of me, I'm sure someone will die soon, and I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's just like that's the
It's
story
life.
of
That's
life.
life,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? But I do want to thank you guys, because this is not an easy topic. Caitlin, plug yourself. Tell us where we can find you. She fixes hair too, guys.
I'm not gonna say what we said.
Not on international TV. We're not gonna.
I'm not gonna go there. But
she,
go ahead.
She's a beautiful girl that does hair. That does she's capable. But plug yourself, beautiful.
I always forget what my Instagram is. Let me look. Hold on.
You can say it. What is your like? I know you. I know what you.
Spicy babe underscore.
Yeah, say
so
it.
I do hair in the Winter Park area.
Yeah,
so,
she does,
yeah.
and that's how we met.
Yeah.
So if you're interested, hit her up.
Get a blowout. Come get a blowout.
I should have said blowout, but that's not what I said earlier. Okay. Inside joke, guys, and I'm not gonna kill it with that. And Miss Diva, I can't stand you.
Yes, Diva Cakes on IG and Facebook. DEVA Cakes. Diva Cakes Sweets on IG. Definitely check me out. Wedding
she makes
cakes,
yummy cakes.
Wedding
Now you
cakes,
got me
celebration
hungry.
cakes. I should have brought you a jar, but I'll get you
It's
next
okay.
time.
No,
Yeah,
you're
cake
good.
jars, all of that stuff. Please hit me up. I'm back up and running. I took last year off for, health stuff, but now I'm back. Even though I only got one arm right now, but I'm gonna be back real soon. And definitely
To make
hit me
my
up.
cake.
Make your cake. Get that sweet
All
potato
right.
cake going. That's our favorite.
That's my favorite, guys. If you didn't know, she makes the best. I've never had a sweet potato pound cake before her, but I have never wanted to try anybody else's.
Because you can't.
Yeah,
It will never live up to it.
I already know that. I'm going to share some sponsorship packages that I'm working on to anyone that's interested. I'm doing a quick plug because that's what I'm doing. But I do want to say thank you for you guys joining, talking. It's fun, and I'm always going to make you laugh and cry. That's what this is all about.
I was trying so hard. I was trying. She got me. And I told her, you're not going to make me cry, but she got me.
And
But,
it was organic. I didn't think of any questions on purpose because I really wanted us to just
Yeah.
have a conversation.
Absolutely.
But thank you. Thank
Thank you.
Now she's a friend to the show, so
here.
she'll be on, I'm sure,
Absolutely.
too.
It was
Thank you. You know where to find me, Aspired Podcasts and Aspired J. Our website is aspiredpodcast.com. So love you guys. Bye.